are going to officially start with Alphonso Davies. Talking a lot about him this week, and why not, guys? He's a superstar with Canada Soccer, the national team, just in general around the world. But here's the thing: we also know that the rumors have been out there. He wants to join Real Madrid. There was reports as well a couple weeks ago that they've agreed to a deal verbally. We even know that there's been an in-person meeting. That's what's been reported between Alphonso Davies' agent and Real Madrid. And we know his deal is up at the end of the year. Bayern Munich have put his value at 72 million. That is the price tag that they have put on Alphonso Davies. Real Madrid, again, it's been reported that they don't really want to even go more than 60. So I guess the question is, and I'll start with you, Wheels, do you actually think Alphonso Davies is worth a $72 million transfer fee?
Yes, I do. His age, his profile, one of the top left backs in the world. I think there's a lot of teams that would go out and spend that kind of money on him. But the question is, or I'm going to pivot a little bit, is whether that's what Bayern Munich will actually get for Alphonso Davies. And I think the answer to that is no. When he's going into the last year of his contract, he holds an incredible amount of power. And he, as in the player Alphonso Davies, if he wants to go to Real Madrid, if he's solely set moving on just to one other team, there's no bidding for him. It's not as if like Arsenal or Manchester United or another team is even in the mix. If he just has his eyes set for Real Madrid, I think that influences things. Real Madrid oftentimes can get players below market value in situations like this because of their strength, because of the fact they are Real Madrid and the player has so much power in determining where his next step will be. So this is the thing. Bayern Munich kind of don't really have the leverage here unless they want to risk losing the player after next year on a free, which I don't think a club like that with a talent like this is in a position to do that. So there will be some kind of compromise. I think in the range of 50, maybe up to 60, they'll go that far, but I'm not sure how much further they'll have to go in order to lock down the player. But is Alphonso Davies worth that kind of money? Absolutely, and maybe even more than that.
How are you feeling about it, Jordo?
He's going to get paid. I mean, is it going to hit the 70? Wheels is right. It could be around the 60. You're looking at Jude Bellingham, Vinicius, Camavinga, like all these guys on the squad. And the millions that they're getting. I think Alphonso Davies, with his talent and his age and the ceiling that he hasn't even hit yet, he's worth that money right around there. But again, I think when you have two sides and both of them want the same thing, Real Madrid, Florentino Perez wants to have Alphonso Davies come to Real Madrid, but Alphonso Davies as well. We've been saying it for a while now, over a year, that he would want to be there. So there's going to be a negotiation game for sure. Like who is willing to give in. It's different if there are other clubs where he is actively seeking, then maybe that price tag might go up. But because both parties basically want him to be there, you're going to have this little dance. But I personally don't see it dropping past like a 50. Like that's what he's worth. He's so young. He's so talented. He's arguably the best left back in the world. He'll be there and at a good price tag.
Ollie?
Yeah, I think Bayern will set the price high until they've kind of given up hope of being able to keep Alphonso Davies. And those discussions are still going on. They don't seem to be hugely optimistic, given there is still, or it's being reported at least, that there's a pretty big gap in the ask from Davies and his agent versus what Bayern Munich are willing to offer. It's supposedly 20 million euros a year they're asking for. Bayern were reported to be offering 14 million. So that looks like a very big gap to bridge over the next few months if they're going to persuade Alphonso Davies to sign a new deal and not go into the last year of his contracts. What Bayern really need here is another club to come in. There's been some rumbling of Chelsea. I don't know if there's anything to that or not, but that then creates a bit of some competition and maybe a bidding war that could allow them to extract more value. If it's just Real Madrid, then we've seen this over and over and over again. Real Madrid are very good at, targeting players, planting that seed of you have the possibility of coming to Real Madrid, the biggest club in the world, and then they'll do one of two things. They'll either just let the player run down his contract and play it out and sign him for free. They've done it with Alaba, with Rudiger. They look like they're going to do it with Kylian Mbappe, or they'll do it at a price that suits them. Someone like Thibaut Courtois is an example of that. Before the contract comes to an end a year or two in advance. So I could see them paying 40, maybe even 50 million, but I don't think they'll go to 72 for a player with 1 year left.
But don't you guys just get the sense that there's two choices here: either stay at Bayern Munich or move on to Real Madrid. Like, I don't think that this is about his next contract or quote unquote getting paid. He wants to do that in the process, obviously, but it's about where he wants to play next. And it seems like Real Madrid would be bidding against themselves here. Like, for example, Mason Mount. I'm a Manchester United supporter. They signed him for £55 million last summer, but that number increased, and he was going into the last year of his contract because there was reported or apparent interest in from Liverpool and Arsenal. So you have to pay a little bit more. But right now, if there's only one side that's bidding and there's only one place where Alphonso wants to go, that really plays into Real Madrid's hands.
100%. Real Madrid is
like,
holding all the cards here.
For sure. That's basically what it is. Everyone knows that Alphonso Davies wants to go there. And Ollie's mentioned it before, just like that array of talented young players. You can see Alphonso fitting right in with them. And I think everyone kind of knows that. The Chelseas, other clubs that might be top clubs that have the dollar, it's not a attractive club as Real Madrid to go to.
Let's keep talking about Alphonso Davies, but in particular as it pertains to the captaincy of the national team, because we know with the retirement of Atiba Hutchinson, we know with Milan Borja not being called into camp, that was obviously a question that was asked of Mauro Biello, is who could be the next captain? Who will wear the armband in that game against Trinidad and Tobago? And this is what he had to say.
Yeah, I think that's something that I'll decide in camp, and obviously for me, it'll be a reset, a cultural reset with the group, and I think what I'm looking to achieve is a base in this camp, and I think there's a lot of good leaders, and some of these young leaders need space to live and experience situations now with these responsibilities. So for me, it's about building this base with this group and allowing leaders now to grow into these positions, and from there I'll be evaluating, and then I'll make a decision who the captain is on game day.
So I know we're looking at Trinidad and Tobago, and that's what Mauro Biello is being asked, because quite frankly, we don't know, guys, if he's going to be the coach moving forward. We just mentioned Kevin Blue is now taken over as general secretary. Today's his first day on the job, and we know that he's going to start that search. But if we were to just talk even bigger picture, Ollie, lead us off on this one. Is Davies ready to be captain of the Canadian men's national team?
I really hope so, and I think he should be the next captain of Canada. I think there's a good chance whoever captains the team in this game will end up being the permanent captain. Kind of reminds me of David Beckham, who originally got it under an interim coach, but then just kind of stayed on and continued after that. But look, I think there's a number of players who you can point to who I'm sure would make great captains for Canada. I'm sure a lot of people will say Stefan Eustáquio, given the importance that he has to Canada and the important player he's become and the leadership qualities that are very evident there. But for me, I can go through, all of those different players and think they could all do it well. But Alphonso Davies is just different, and he's always been different. Like, this is the kid who broke into the Canadian team as a teenager, as a high school kid. The prospects who went to Bayern Munich as a teenager and started playing first team football very, very quickly at one of the biggest clubs in the world. You think of the moments he's had in a Canada jersey, some of the most memorable that we've seen in the history of this program. And I always think back as well to even when he was standing on that stage telling the world why Canada should host the 2026 World Cup. Like, there's always been something different about Alphonso Davies that has made him special, made him the face of this team. And I understand that, being captain comes with some obligations, some responsibilities, maybe some of the stuff that's not so natural to him or he doesn't enjoy so much. But for me, it would be a real shame if that side of the role kind of gets in the way of and is seen as a burden, as opposed to this armbands being, a privilege and one of the biggest moments in your career for any player to captain your country. So this is the guy for me that I would always want to see leading Canada out at a World Cup, at major tournaments, anywhere. I think Alphonso Davies has always been destined to become this player, and I'll be disappointed if that's passed up just because of some of the responsibilities that come with the role.
How are you feeling about it, Wheels?
Mauro Biello clearly said that he's going to go into camp. We heard the clip and kind of gauge where things stand. He also said that new leaders emerge, they need space, and they require that in order to grow into that role. I think there'll be a conversation between Biello and Davies, if that's who Biello's thinking, and I think that all of us are of that train of thought. And I think that I'll have an honest conversation with Alphonso if that's something that he wants right now. I think a lot of it comes down to a player. It's very difficult for any player to turn down the offer of wearing the armband, but I think it's a very personal thing for Alphonso Davies. Is he ready to take on that extra responsibility? Is he willing to take on a leadership role, taking more of an onus on the team, the way they prepare, the way they focus, the way they play? And if he is, I think that he's the ideal candidate. Again, just like Ollie, I think he's the perfect player to be captain of this team moving forward. To really kind of bring this group together. I know there's been off-field stuff, negotiating his own rights contract and that sort of thing about the team. But I think that players kind of understand at the level that Alphonso Davies is at, and that he could be the player that kind of forges or leads the way of this new generation of Canadian players based upon his platform, based upon his experience, based upon his talent. So, but it's just whether he wants it right now, if he believes that that is the next step, and whether he's ready to take that step in what's going to be potentially a transformational summer for him. And I think that makes things a little bit more complicated.
Jordo?
I have mixed emotions, Andy. I'm not going to lie to you, because I feel as if this is one of the most decorated players that we've had for Canada. Obviously, Christine Sinclair on the women's side, but for the men's side, you're looking at Alphonso Davies, and he's at the top of the list. He's about to go to Real Madrid as a Canadian. Like, he's a mega superstar. I will say nowadays in the football world, they're like, especially in North America, there's like leadership teams, right? Even if there's one captain, this is not the only voice that you should be hearing. There's the Kamal Millers. Stephen Eustachio, every time he plays, he's commanding. I think Alistair Johnson as well has a lot of leadership qualities. There are a lot of people Bielsa could pick. I'm just hoping that Alphonso Davies goes to Bielsa when they speak and says, I want this. I want to be the guy that, look, he's still going to go and do his game and be the one blazing down the wing. He's not going to go and cure all of Canada's problems, nor should he. But I think being the face and wanting to do that, wanting to step up and say, this is my role. I want to wear the armband, not just for how it looks, but because I want to push this team to the next level. I feel like if he doesn't want to have that conversation, that's also okay. Use him for his talent. But I think this is a situation that Bielsa or any coach moving forward is not going to refuse Alphonso Davies if he says, I want to take this armband. They're not going to say you're too young or there's someone that should be older, more experienced. I think of Tyler Adams for the U.S. He's a year older than Alphonso, but every time he plays for the U.S., he says, this is my team, this is my country, and he steps up in that role, whether it be media or hard conversations. He has those. So I think it's really dependent on Alphonso Davies saying, this is my time and I want to be the next one to lead this team. And this is not just a group where he's unfamiliar. There's like Jonathan Davis that he grew up with. Like, these are guys that he's been leading and being around all the time. So it's really just a look in the mirror for AD number 19 to say, this is my time. And the world's of them. I would also, to all these points, I think it would be an injustice if that never happens for Alphonso, right? Like, he's not old, but he's not young anymore, being at 24. If he's just saying, I'm going to be the best left back, I'm going to come and play for Canada. I think there should be an onus on him to be like, hey, I also want to be a leader and I want to be someone who's playing for the next 10, 15 years for this country. But that is completely on him. And I hope that we see it from this match. I think we could, but it's up to Alphonso.
And we know that being a leader on this team does come with a lot right now. I mean, here we are talking about Kevin Blue taking over as general secretary. You know that there's still the labor dispute. And usually you're the face of your team. That player is the one who takes charge in many ways, behind the scenes, but also in front of the scenes. Like, when people want answers, it's usually the captain, right, who they parade out and answer questions. And, you know, again, he is the face. He is the one that has to answer on good days and has to answer on bad days. And you do have to ask yourself if that is the type of responsibility you want. But you're also right. I do think we have groups as well of leadership. But it's not just a matter of wearing that armband and going out and taking the picture and shaking the hand and, you know, whatever coin flip with the ref. Like, there's a lot that comes with it. So he'd have to ask himself if he wants that. But of course, I would love to see somebody like him walk up to Mauro and say, give it to me, because that means he's accepting all that comes with it. And why wouldn't you want your star player to be that guy who does that?